Today we are going to be talking about secondary characters and how to use them effectively in your writing. Secondary characters can be so much more than just people on the page. They can present alternative paths for your protagonist. They can invoke different themes in how your character lives their life, how they deal with their moral dilemmas. They can add conflict and tension on the page. I'm going to give you tips on how to do all these things and more. Let's dive in. I'm Carly, and this is the Carly and Brooke Show, where we interview top authors and bring you tips and tricks on writing so that you can become a successful author someday. Be sure to check out our Instagrams for daily tips on writing. All right, so my first tip on secondary characters is use them to present alternative paths for your protagonist. All right, let's say your main character is this control freak. They are obsessed with having control in their life and order, and their main goal is to become the mayor, to prove to their mom that they can conquer the world. They have something to prove to their mother, right? And let's say that they're a best friend or a romantic interest, or even maybe the antagonist, somebody who works at the mayor's office, I don't know, wherever the mayor works at, right? It doesn't matter who you choose, you just want this person to appear a lot in their life. And so what you can do is you can have them be the complete opposite. So they have no care for control. They handle everything with humor. They don't even know why they're at the office. Maybe they also have something to prove to their parents, or maybe they do like it, but they just, for whatever reason, they don't care about control. And what this does is it can do a few things for you. Is it can create tension and conflict between your main character and the secondary character, so they can butt heads on the page. They can banter back and forth, and you can create humor. And it can also make your main character question everything about their life. Would I be happier if I didn't care as much like so-and-so and led my life more carefree? Or they can have a moment where it's like, oh my gosh, yes, I'm making the right choice. I would never want my life to be like so-and-so's. Like, I have to have control. It can just make them question everything, and you can weave that in throughout the story. And this can also bring out your character flaws, which are always a plus because that really helps the reader bond and relate to your protagonist. So let's say if they are comparing their lives to this secondary character, it can maybe make them jealous, or it can bring out their insecurities. It can bring out all different kinds of emotions that your character can reflect on and show their weakness. All right, for your secondary characters, especially ones that appear a lot on the page, you almost want to give them, you don't want to do this for all your characters, otherwise that loses its power, but on the important secondary characters, you want to give them some kind of a rememberable trait. This can be with their personality, like the way that they talk, certain words that they use. It can be part of their appearance. It could be something that they wear, just something for the reader to latch on to. And so it gives a very clear image of who this character is. So whatever you choose, it should reflect the character's personality, or maybe a time in their life, just have some kind of a reflection on who they are in their character arc. And you can also give your secondary characters their own mini character arc. Now, you don't have to do this with every single one, otherwise your book will be huge, and it's okay if you do. There are those authors out there who do that too. But just give some of your secondary characters their own like mini character arc, something for the reader to track. This will really flesh out your world too and make everything feel just more real. Let me give you an example. Okay, I'm going to use Harry Potter just because I know that probably most every single person has seen or read those books, so it's easy to pull examples from. Anyways, let's say Neville Longbottom, right? From when we first meet him, he is very much like insecure, he's quiet, he's awkward, everything is always like, everything that could go wrong does go wrong to him, and he's kind of like he's kind of like always like, oh, poor Neville, right? But then at the end, when he pulls Godric Gryffindor's sword from the sorting hat and chops off Nagini's head, it's like, what? Like, who did he, oh my gosh, right? But you saw him like standing up to Harry and Ron and Hermione when they were trying to sneak out. Like, so you saw little areas of him beginning to be more and more brave, but it's something easy for the reader to track, and it really just fleshes out your world. Now you can go as extreme as how, okay, Professor Snape's, his story arc is very, very complex, and almost like one of the most complex character arcs in the book, but his is like with his whole past with with Lily and James, and so how he treats Harry, and we don't need to get into it. You guys are familiar with what I'm talking about, but his character arc is so much more complex, and at the end it's like you really, I don't know, I felt something. Like that was, his death was rough. It was just, I don't know what it was. It was something, but his character arc was a lot more intense. And so you can do it just like a little bit or go as crazy as you want with it. And again, you don't have to do this for everyone. You can, but your book will probably be huge, but you can do this for a few of those important secondary characters. All right, so with your supporting cast, your strong secondary characters, they are formed by their life experiences. So you do need to know some of their backstory. You might not need to dig as deep as you do with your protagonist or your antagonist, but you do need to know who these people are. So your secondary characters shouldn't just be there to do everything for your protagonist, otherwise it's going to feel not real, right? If they're just there only to serve your main character and the plot, then, well, the people aren't going to bond to them and they aren't going to feel like real people. So you want your secondary characters to have their own goal, something that they're working for, something that they want more than anything, something that affects every decision that they make, just some kind of overall goal. You want them to have motive for that goal. Why does it mean so much to them? And then you want your protagonist and your secondary characters to almost form this relationship where if the secondary character is helping your protagonist is doing something in return to help the secondary character, or they both want the same thing. So they are both willing to work together to achieve this one goal. But just, yeah, the main thing is you just don't want your secondary characters to feel like they're only there to serve your protagonist and to serve the plot. Now I use Scrivener, and so it's very easy to track my secondary characters in there and to keep like a little character chart in there. But I would suggest keeping it, especially if you're writing a series. Otherwise you're gonna have to like go back and search a billion times for like someone's name, appearances, etc. So if you just very easily keep a little character chart, I know it's like kind of a lot to do in the beginning, but it does help in the long run. So you can use your secondary characters to help with slow paced scenes, or to bring in a surprise, or to make something interesting happen. In the dialogue, if they're having a conversation, they could redirect the conversation, or you just look for little ways to add in just unexpected things that the secondary character can do, that your main character to kind of process, but make sure it's like it serves a purpose, whether it be for their character arc or for the plot. But you don't want to just have it be totally random. But yeah, you can use them to just add in a different element to scenes that feel like they're just missing something. But you do want to make sure that every character speaks with purpose. A lot of like that slow, that back and forth chatter, the hi, how are you? Good, my day was great. Did you sleep well? Yeah, okay, what do you plan on? Like that, like how we talk in real life gets really boring for the reader, and it's just, you really want to think about your words as like gold. Like how are you going to spend this money on your book, right? You don't want to just put in a bunch of unnecessary words or unnecessary scenes. Now, with your secondary characters and your protagonists, when they're speaking and when they're going back and forth, you really want to take the time to make sure that dialogue sounds natural. So you want to read it out loud, and you want to make sure that your characters, they don't all sound the same. So like with your strong secondary characters, they should have almost like their own phrases that they say, or the way that they speak, whether they speak in like long, flowy sentences, or like if they're really like short and right to the point. You just want to have some kind of difference between the way your characters speak. Again, you don't have to do this with all of them, but just those ones that appear a lot on the page, you can just have just throw it in there a little bit, just sprinkle it in there, and just have that dialogue sound a little different from time to time. So I hear this a lot from online writing classes that I take, but a lot of times with writers, we get lazy when it comes to naming our characters. And so we just kind of put in like filler names or whatever, but take the time to like name your secondary characters again, especially the ones that are a lot on the page, because a name can really alone, just hearing a name can really put a picture in someone's mind. And so you want to take the time to make sure you get the name right. Now, you can also do that to like make it unexpected. You could name the character a name that, like, say you name them just something very generic. John and Jane, right? So if you name a character John or if you name a character Jane, and so it seems very plain, but then these characters can be very eccentric or very unexpected, or just kind of throw the reader off like, oh, yeah, I wouldn't expect that. So you can use character names to do different things for your story and for your character's personality and for their character arc. And again, readers love surprises. Of course, it can't be like so far-fetched that it doesn't match the story at all, but you can use these secondary characters to just add in surprises. You can make them say things that like the reader wouldn't expect, or do actions that the reader wouldn't expect, just some kind of surprise. But again, make sure it has to do with like the character plot, the character arc, or the plot. Well, that is it for us today. And if you found this video valuable, please be sure to like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you'll be notified when our next video is up. Brooke and I post a writing video every Wednesday, and we'd love to have you on this author journey with us. Thanks everyone. Bye-bye.